Growing up with my cousins, there was always the four of them in this particular family, 2 sisters and 2 brothers. Summers grilling in their backyard, Christmas Day at our house, many an unplanned, spontaneous visit in between. The 4 of them, they built this family montage. We got used to thinking of this family in 4s. Then, at the unripe age of 21, Paul was killed in a small airplane crash. Suddenly, where there was 4, there was now 3. Suddenly, at all of these family events, there was this gaping hole where Paul once lived. We know this scene in our lives, in our communities. We have seen it countless times at funerals where there is this gaping hole in the first family pew where once a loved one stood. Into such a scene we walk today. With this village of Bethany, some 2 miles from Jerusalem, we always associate these 3 sibs, Martha and Mary and Lazarus. At Bethany, in the home of Martha and Mary and Lazarus, Jesus could just come and hang out. No pretenses. Over the course of his ministry on the road, they became close, intimate friends. We all have such places to go to, places where, to paraphrase Robert Frost, when you have to go there, they have to take you in. Even Jesus had need of such a place and had such a place. But today, where there were once 3 siblings, there are now 2. Lazarus has succumbed to his illness and has already been in the tomb 4 days. In this family montage, there is this gaping hole that Lazarus once filled. Overwhelmed with grief at losing her only brother, their only brother, both Martha and Mary shriek out the same cry, "Lord, if you had been here, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died." We too have all been to such a place where, perhaps in the hospital ward in the middle of the night, we shriek out, "Lord, let my spouse, child, brother, sister, parent live." In our utter despair and loneliness, we are there with Mary, left wondering, "Lord, if you are there, out there someplace, keep this loved one of mine from dying." Then, when the wearer of the white coat appears, sometimes he or she is the bearer of good news and tells us, "Yes, your spouse, child, brother, sister, parent will live." On other days, he or she will have to tell us there will be no miracle today. Into this scene of wailing Jews and scurrying mourners and a stinking tomb, Jesus walks in today, miracle in hand. So here we are, in this place, the 5th and final Sunday before Palm Sunday next week. Today's headline of the story screams out at us the raising of Lazarus from the dead. The raising of Lazarus today confronts us with those ultimate things that generally get buried, pun intended, that generally get buried in the multitasking and crazy business of our days. Death and resurrection. Yes, this story is about resurrection, because this would be Jesus' final miracle before he laid down his own life, only to take it up again. But I'd also like to suggest that this passage confronts us with this thing we call miracle, and that the real miracle occurs in the last sentence when Jesus says to them, to all the crowds amassed out there, "Unbind him and let him go." When the once dead man comes out walking, which is hard to do when you think about it, when you're swaddled in burial wraps from head to toe with just your face sticking out. Jesus' first words are not to Lazarus. He doesn't say, "Welcome back to life, Lazarus. Glad to see you." You'd think Jesus would welcome Lazarus back to life or something. But no, his first words are addressed to the crowds huddling around him, awaiting a spectacle. It is to them that Jesus turns with the command to unbind him from death, from the death wraps, and to give him back his freedom. It's to them that Jesus turns. Unbind him. From our Orthodox tradition, there are a number of icons that depict the raising of Lazarus. There's one in particular, the Coptic icon of the raising of Lazarus. Just Google it. You can see it this afternoon. That gets this point across in a striking way. Jesus is already in a resurrected state with his halo on, and he towers over the now, once again, reunited three siblings. But it is the crowd massed behind him that draws our attention. They all look alike. The same clothes, the same faces. They're all looking ready for the resurrected Jesus. They're ready to take him back into their community again. This makes sense for John's gospel, because in John's gospel it's all about community. In every individual encounter with Jesus this past Lent, Nicodemus, the Samaritan woman, the man born blind, and now Lazarus. They as individuals have been transformed by their encounter with Jesus. Yes, that's true, but it doesn't stop there. It isn't for them alone. The transformation that takes place with Jesus is to be a witness to the larger community of what is possible with Jesus' miracle, Jesus' glory and power alone. And therein lies our gospel challenge for today, as we prepare for Holy Week, which starts next Sunday. First, what tomb is Jesus calling you to come out of? What is keeping you from the new life that he has in store for you this side of the grave? Is it a long, festering wound from your childhood? Is it a bad habit that you repeat and it just whittles you down? Is it a lifeless routine that keeps you from changing? Calling us each by name, Jesus commands us to come out, to let go, to evacuate everything that would entomb us, everything lifeless and stinking and deadening. And second, how can we support you? What can you look to this community for help with in unbinding you? At the beginning of Lent, we prayed to be released from all of our past unfaithfulness, the pride, hypocrisy, and impatience of our lives, our exploitation of other people, our anger at our own frustration. Do any of these things resonate with you? Can your community of faith, this community, help you to become unbound from any of those things? When Jesus releases someone from the tomb they've been in, he also returns them to the community from whence they came. We need each other to receive each other back from the brink of where our own individual sinfulness has stranded us. In so doing, each of us, alone and together becomes a witness of what is possible by God's power alone. A reconciled spirit, a forgiven heart, a new energy. Like the gap that ensues when a loved one dies and the family constellation is changed forever, so too do we miss you as a community when you stay away. So, if you're tempted to stay away, or if you know someone who has stayed away, can you be that witness of God's miracle to bring them back from the brink, to unwrap them from the death wraps, and to restore them to us in community? Because it is into these gaps of death, made by bitterness and hurt and anger and frustration, that Jesus comes walking in today, miracle in hand. And he comes walking in just in time for us to prepare for Easter. Thanks be to God. Amen.